Good morning to all and good afternoon from Sydney. We are today in a session. One issue we like to discuss about the food security and agriculture through solar irrigation in Bangladesh. Our experience we like to share with you so that we can really get some comments on that. And Bangladesh, it's the next slide. Fahad, next slide. So you can see the solar irrigation benefiting farmers and the nation. In the rural area, a lot of irrigation pump run through diesel pump. Now we are replacing all diesel pump through solar irrigation. Next one. Actually, in our experience, there are mixed experience. There are positive experiences, also challenging experience also. The first one, please. The 90% population living in rural areas has to do with agriculture, and 14% GDP comes from the agriculture, and 70% from rural Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is still, though there are some industrial development, but still agriculture contributing a lot of in GDP. And irrigation, Bangladesh, we have 1.3 million diesel operated pump, and gradually we are replacing through solar irrigation, solar pump. And now we almost have done should we continue or is it delay?
Yes, sir. It's just taking 3 or 4 seconds extra for the slides to change. That's it. Sir, do you hear me?
Okay. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. There's just a big delay when I change the slide. Just wanted to let you know.
So solar irrigation has a potentials because we can replace gradually 1.3 million diesel operated pump, and diesel we need to import from abroad and also polluting environment and is expensive also, but we can replace gradually through solar irrigation pump. Right now around 2,000 solar irrigation pump operating in Bangladesh, and these are in the rural area, especially around 40 megawatt electricity generating through these implemented projects. Because that is a interesting case, 50% time, say 6 months, we can utilize the solar pump for irrigation. Another 6 months waiting, no irrigation needed because of rain or other seasonal variation. So the electricity we can transfer to the grid line. One of this kind of experiment we have done in Kustia 2.5 years ago, already 16 megawatt hour we can transfer to the grid line. So utilizing the solar RAM pump, it is possible to generate 6,300 megawatt electricity in the future. We calculated ourselves from the experience. So 6,000 megawatt we can produce from the solar irrigation pump, apart from the agriculture. Next one. We have really done from the Bright Green Energy Foundation 21 solar irrigation pump in Kustia and Dinajpur, and we have a discussion with the farmers meeting how to cultivate, not using so much water, and also not tobacco. There's a rice and the different varieties of vegetables, crops, so that they have more income. We have a continuous discussion and training program with the farmers, and 6,000 beneficiaries from the different families, and we have a regular connection with them because they need to visit their land, and our area manager and our workers, field workers, they have a continuous meeting with them, and so this is a kind of interesting relationship build up with the farmers. With this Bright Green Energy Foundation, we try to get knowledge from the agriculture department, also organize training so that it is a regular connections and establishment of relationship, so that is growing. And we gradually like to have 100 solar irrigation pump all over the country. Next one. Next slide. So the connection between the farmers, the regular connection is also important. And we also see in Kustia, banana garden. There are lack of water. They cannot produce it, so it's not easy to irrigate even the banana. So in the middle of the banana garden, they produce other crops also. So this is interesting that not only rice, not only other vegetables, but there are fruits also producing in the countryside. So the availability of water is very, very important. Thanks. Next slide. You can see some of the installation under the solar shed. We are also trying to producing gardening and also producing the some crops, so that this picture earlier, now we have many so under solar plant we are producing some agricultural produce also. And you see this is a pump house. So these are the project area we are utilizing for tree plantation and others. Next slide. And the in 2017, a team came from Germany and Tanzania. Most of them are a member of parliament and some journalists. So we took them to Kustia, and they visited solar home system, solar irrigation, biogas plant, and many projects of BGEF. Finally, they like to solar irrigation pump. They like very much. And when they went back, they started a solar irrigation in the Tanzania. So this is a member of parliament visited us. So this is interesting. When they came back to Dhaka, they said they visited different country, but this is the most attractive project for them. And they went back and they wrote a report in their newspaper. So I think these not only in Bangladesh, but also in other country, this inspiration or example replicable. And the Bangladesh television visited us, and they inquiry about the benefits of the solar irrigation pump, environment, and the farmers level. So they have they telecast in the Bangladesh television. So I think it's interesting that getting a lot of interest from the different countries and also from Bangladesh perspective. Next slide. What are the benefits? We give the required water supply, not much, not slow. So we give the sufficient water so that they can cultivate. A neat and clean, completely environment friendly system. It's not polluting environment. We also reducing carbon emission, replacing traditional diesel pump, because diesel pump also creating carbon emission, producing carbon emission, so carbon. And in that case, also we are benefiting by this, and reduces around 40% cost, because we daily basis calculated the cost of the 1 year. We found that 40% cost saved from the solar irrigation by using solar pump, because the farmers, they have to pay much more higher cost for the diesel pump, and the collecting diesel and in the middle of the field carrying the diesel is not easy. So this is convenient. Solar irrigation is convenient, and cost is almost 40% reduced. And increase the growth and variety of crops. You have seen banana, and a lot of varieties now they are producing. There is a demand growing, and in Kustia, one farmer now, it's called Batshabo. They are producing a rice varieties. They got a earlier commitment for buying. So there is a additional attraction for this variety. So people giving advance money, after the harvesting, they will get this rice. So I think this is a good opportunity, because if you have a good quality and supply of water, and then you have the different varieties of the and cost effective, so the farmers are interested to cultivate. Ensure water and food security, because we are also discussing with the farmers and their wives, so that they can produce something near their homestead. Also, even they can produce not only 2 times, 3 times, they can produce 3 crops so that they have some food reserve in the crisis period in their family. And less maintenance costs, because initially we face a problem, but gradually our technicians develop. We train the operator, pump operator, and some farmers. So I think this is gradually becoming a more handy. It's not a big deal. Initially it was a problem. Now we understand the situation, so it's gradually benefiting the farmers and also nation. So I think there are a lot of positive impact of the solar irrigation pump. Next slide. Because the first, Mr. Halaluddin, he was the former chairman SEDA. He visited us. He inaugurated Bangladesh's first grid integrated solar pumping system. We utilize for irrigation, and the rest of the time we transferring the electricity to the grid line of RAB. So I think these are benefiting both. One is the farmers are cultivating the land, and the additional time we are transferring the electricity to the grid line. So the green electricity, there is a concept going on, greening the grid. Grid is not fossil fuel based. Now, if you add more from solar, it can be greening the grid. So this is a interesting 17 megawatt hour we already transferred to the grid line. So there is additional cost for transferring this electricity. We need an inverter. So if there is a support from different organizations, with the UNDP help, we have done it. I think if there is a policy, I think we can get fund from the Green Climate Fund and other sources, and we can have a large scale transferring the solar irrigation pump, 50% time from the irrigation and 50% time we can transfer the electricity to the grid line. That will reduce the cost of electricity also, because diesel will need to import from the abroad, or the ingredient import from the. But once you install the solar, you don't need to don't need any ingredient. Only sunshine is the ingredient. So this is an initiative we are highlighting how this can be replicable throughout the nation. Next slide. Benefit multiple use of solar energy, alternative backup for national grid, so we can give the grid and prevent the loss of 50% energy over the year. Because if we are not transferring to the grid line, 50% energy we are losing. So we can some battery charging or some other things we can do, but it's easy to transfer the grid line. So once you're in the grid line, every household can use the electricity for different purposes. And greening the grid line, what I mentioned, reduces load shedding during the daytime, because daytime sometimes there is not electricity. Even Fahad Haider mentioned that he is now in a rural area, Natrokona. Yesterday there is no electricity for 2-3 hours in the village. So I think then we can reduce the load shedding also, increase the food production, and ensures water, food, and energy security, and benefit the farmers and the nation. So these are benefiting both for the nation, farmers, and also the environment. So there are triple benefit out of this. Next slide. And a high initial investment, that's true. Initially, cost is high to install the solar irrigation pump. We need a solar panel. We need a underground line so that no water loss, and piping system, and we need an inverter. We need a structure, so that's the cost is there. Lack of proper funding and supervisory coordinating. So we need a government coordinating body. Otherwise, if you have a multiple facilities available in the same field, so farmers will be confused. So that's why we need a supervisory authority in the government. SEDA is now trying to do it, but officially we need a agriculture ministry is there, so we need a coordinating body. Lack of incentive and loan facility with a full interest rate, and now the interest rate is high. 6% interest rate. Initial cost is high. That's why even in India, in 7 states, they gave a 90% incentive for the irrigation pump. It's growing. And lack of available technology, maintenance, and services, because initially we face a lot of problem. I think once the economies of scale operate, then the cost of technology will reduce, maintenance and engineers, technician will be available, so that we need a proper support for this to grow. Lack of cold storage and preservation of agricultural products. So farmers are producing, they have to sell during the harvesting period. They cannot keep it in the storage because the electricity cost is high. I think in the long run, because in the cluster of irrigation pump, we can produce electricity and we can transfer to the grid line. We can have a low cost storage facility available in that particular area because we are producing electricity. So in that case, there would be a preservation cost may be lower. So we need to try also a different kind of process or experimental so that farmers get benefit out of it. A lack of marketing facility and proper price of the crops in the market, especially in the harvesting season that I mentioned, so that they need at least 1 or 2 months. Even a tomato and other things, if you keep it for 1 month, there is a price is much better. And also not only farmers, the people are benefiting because they can get a tomato and other agricultural product for the longer period and a cost-effective price. Next slide. Agricultural accessories and affordable prices for farmers. This grant facility on solar irrigation pump. Initially, we need some subsidy, but once you're running the system, then it will recover the cost. And the short-term loan bank facility with low interest rate, we have only it call, but it takes so much time to get a approval, 6 months, even 1 year. I think that's why we need the Bangladesh bank have a green loan interest rate, because interest rate before that were 15%, now it's less than 10%. A single digit for the irrigation, it can be 3%. Then many people will be interested to have a loan and get, and also a kind of a facility, because government also encouraging farmers to buy the harvesting machine and other machine, and they get a 50% discount, or 50% cash benefit out of this, so that for the solar irrigation pump, this kind of a program can be implemented so that the cost will be reduced to half, and then have a short, low interest loan available, and the technical staffs and other organizations are available, they can install the system. And marketing opportunities for the farmers. And so we need to creating a market opportunities so that 1 or 2 months they can preserve the goods in their village so they can get a better price. Agricultural machinery at the farmers level. So that's I mentioned about the agricultural mechanization is very important. So I think the machineries are at the farmers level and low cost and facilities there. And we can create a farmers training facility so that they have a how to run the machine, small machines, and they're creating the facilities at the farmers level. So it's not a conventional farming. It can be an organized farming so that the cost will be reduced and the benefits of the farmers will grow because they can get a better price. And you know, Bangladesh population is growing, so agriculture is very, very important. In case of our COVID pandemic situation, Bangladesh say because we produce agriculture produce at the ground level. So I think the agriculture production is very, very important. And solar irrigation pump that can energize agriculture sector in different way. The next slide. You know, impacts of climate change in Bangladesh. You know, Bangladesh is one of the country vulnerable for the climate change, though we are not affecting climate change from our energy situation yet. So the saline water intrusion in southern part of the country, increasing river erosion, destroying homes and agricultural lands, properties and livelihood, frequent cyclones, flood, droughts and landslide, increasing temperature affecting the work environment and health, sea level rise, water logging in different cities and areas. Women and children are more vulnerable at the negative impacts of the climate change. So these are the climate vulnerabilities in Bangladesh. So how to handle this situation? This is our challenge in Bangladesh. So we need to do different kind of climate. And our Honorable Prime Minister in COP26, the bold declaration, Bangladesh is one of the world's most extensive domestic energy programs. We hope that 40% of the country's energy from renewable sources. We are going to implement the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, a journey from climate vulnerability to resilience to climate prosperity. So these are the very bold decisions from our Honorable Prime Minister. And we mentioned about the climate vulnerable situation of Bangladesh. So how to cope with this situation? I think that's why we need a different kind of approach. One, the agriculture we can do in such a way we are also not damaging environment. We can save money from importing fossil fuel, and also we can produce more different varieties, cost effective, 50% cost less, and then we can create a storage facility for the so that they can produce efficiently, and also storage for 2-3 months in the cold storage, so that they can get a better price, and also they have a financing are available at the doorstep, and technical facilities are available for maintenance, everything at the doorstep, so that Bangladesh have a chance to fight with this challenging situation. Next slide. So these are the way forward. What can be prevented huge amount of carbon emission by 1.3 million traditional diesel pump we can gradually transfer to the solar irrigation pump. Clustering the adjacent pumps can give huge support to the, because we can have a solar cold storage can also be demonstrated in the clustering area. Technical support to the farmers to increase the growth and the crops. Proper marketing facilities for the farmers to get their fair prices in different crops. Integrating plan in the national level for rainwater harvesting. We have a sufficient rain, so we need to harvest in rainwater also, not only water from the underground. Using fresh water for river and other water bodies for solar irrigation, which will reduce the pressure on underground water. So we need a integrated approach. From this experience, we can see there are challenges, but there are lot of positive impact also for our farmers, food security, and climate adaptation. So I think these are and also we are now pond in the area of the farming, the project area. We have some land, we create a small pond, we are cultivating fish and other things. We are inviting the women also. So we are trying to do different activities, and which one is cost effective and people enjoy it or like it, they can go for it. So I think the solar irrigation, there is a technically feasible, and farmers getting at least 40% less cost than diesel pump. And also we can create other facilities, cold storage and other facilities. And 50% time we can transfer the electricity to the grid line, then the cost can be more reduced for the farming of the water charge, maybe less. And in the long run, these farmers can own the irrigation pump, not by any NGO or anything. In our mission, at the end of the day, we can transfer the mechanism, everything to the farmers so they can run it. But we need to observe it. Sometimes cooperative is good, sometimes the management not good enough. So we are trying to how to a mechanism, a system develop so farmers can get benefit out of the solar irrigation. So from our experience, I can say technically feasible, economically encouraging, and environmentally also encouraging, positive. So nationwide, it is also benefiting. So we can create a mechanism how the solar irrigation can gradually 1.3 million traditional diesel pump can be transferred to a solar irrigation pump, so that we greening the grid also. So there are benefit out of this solar irrigation. If any slide there, Fahad, please. Yes, thank you very much. So any questions, I would be delighted to respond, or any email to us, we can respond to your email. These are our experience about the solar irrigation in Kustia and Dinajpur. And this is in a kind of a brainstorming. Just you give us any queries, we'd like to reply to these queries. Thank you very much. Fahad, you can start your presentation. Yeah, or any questions there?
Thank you, Deepal sir. Can you hear me, by the way?
Okay, you can present now your case, then both the presentation, then any questions, we would be delighted to respond.
Yeah, sure. Sir, can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Fahad. So here is a quick look at my project. So what we did is we raised some funds online, and the plan was to empower a rural school in Bangladesh, specifically in Netrokona, with like solar or PV and low energy computer. I'm actually in the school right now using the Wi-Fi that we installed just yesterday. And yeah, it's very exciting, as we all will see. So a quick background about myself. I'm actually based in Australia. My background is Bangladeshi Australian. So just for you guys to have a context of, you know, where I'm coming from, basically. And I've been in Bangladesh over the past 2 years working as a consultant, and I've done various projects for like World Bank UDP, and even like helped ICCCAD during COP26 as well for a little bit. Yeah, I did my master's in renewable energy from the University of New South Wales, and my bachelor's in electronics from Oxford University, both in Sydney. So what are we doing? We are adding like PV or photovoltaics in a school with specific technology and features specific to the Bangladesh environment. I'll get more to it later. We also donated a low-powered, low-cost computer, which is the Raspberry Pi 4, with a little bit of tweaking from our side and using the Raspberry Pi OS. We also installed the Wi-Fi connection, and our budget, as we raised funds, it wasn't that much. It was Australian $3,000 or US 2,250, which is very less, like comparatively, like in Australia, an inverter itself is over $3,000. The capacity is a bit more, but you know, you get the point, right? The PV system gets around $10,000, and here the budget is 3,000. So yeah, we are working with below funds. However, this really replicates a rural low-income household or institutions such as schools. And yeah, the installation was actually completed like yesterday. So yeah, we have some really fresh and nice videos and photos. So where was this? This was in Akara Netrokona, and it has 110 registered students, but I think there's like 90 attending at the moment. So yeah, what are the points that I was talking about earlier? Like, look, Bangladesh is on the path of becoming what I call a modern developing country. What do I mean by that? Like, Bangladesh, like it was recently announced that it has 100% grid electricity, like throughout the country. However, the biggest issue, especially in rural areas, is blackouts. They get hours and hours of blackouts. So what we are trying to do is replicate a system that like medium household can afford. However, like just optimize it and ensure that they can use it for a long time. So what are the requirements? So it's only 1 kilowatt max. So as you can see, like anyone in the technical side will know that this is very, very low. It also has the priority of the PV first, and then the grid, and then the battery. So when we have the solar available, the load uses the PV, and then the grid, and then the battery. So if you don't have the grid, it goes to the battery. And what this also does is it discourages like excessive discharge from the battery, which causes degradation, obviously. Another thing was like remote monitoring availability. Actually, it wasn't really available at 1 kilowatt, so we had to use our creative minds. So yeah, I'll get to that as well. Okay, so again, like most inverters, especially from China, they cater to either completely off-grid or on-grid that are without batteries. Okay, so because I think it caters to the situation in those countries or other countries that are more where grid electricity is a bit rare, for example. However, Bangladesh, since it's 100% electrified, we need hybrid inverters that can use the grid, but also a battery and also the PV. So it makes puts a fair bit of pressure on the inverter, and which means that because of the complexity, most inverters start from 3 kilowatt, which is 3 times of what we need. And again, like the load of school and many dwellings in developing countries, it cannot be increased. Like here we have basically 2 fans, 3 lights, 1 computer, and sometimes maybe they will charge a few phones. That's it. So 1 kilowatt is more than enough. Oh yeah, and another thing is there has also been a lot of complaint from rural consumers that the system goes down, either the inverter itself or mostly the batteries. They stop working within a year, even the PV panels actually. So another thing was to actually have a look and identify the issues if possible. Okay, so what did we install? So one VA solar IPS. It's Indian made and it's highly popular in Bangladesh, very popular, and because of the low capacity, the low cap, and also it is $300. And however, it does not have monitoring. We after a lot of search, we found a high quality Victron inverter, but just for the Victron parts itself, inverter, charge controller, and monitoring, it was $3,200 and only for 800 VA. So yeah, that's very low. However, again, many suppliers also flagged longevity concerns about these solar IPSs. We also installed 550 watt PV panels, so 750 in total, 200 ampere hour batteries, and other balance of system items. So this was around $1,700 Australian. We also installed the Raspberry Pi computer with the monitor and keyboard, mouse, speaker, all the rest. This was $350, and it was actually in the current market, it's actually very good. We got a very good price. Again, the Wi-Fi as well, as mentioned. And okay, so look, for me, monitoring is very important because a PV system will give you symptoms first, and then it'll go really bad, it'll break, right? But first, it'll show you signs. This is where the monitoring system is so important, which is so heavily underutilized here. So what we did is we used, I got some on-off smart switches, and they monitor your energy usages as well. So every day, every month, and the real time as well, as you can see here. So yeah, that's been very good. For here, for example, here we can see that there is no power, but the output is 31 watts, right? So from this, we can conclude that, so this is the grid input, by the way. So there is grid input is 0, but the output from the inverter is 31 watts. So 31 watts is coming from the PV panels itself. And so they're basically saving grid electricity. Finally, we also installed 2 fans because yeah, summer's almost here and it's very hot, and Ramadan is approaching as well, which is the month where Muslims fast. Okay, so I just wanted to show a quick video. Okay, so we were installing and finalizing the system yesterday, last night, basically, and this is what was happening. So there was a little storm and there was full blackout, and have a quick look. So that's me adding the computer and changing settings. And so what's happened there is that the cameraman did a complete 360, and there is grid electricity here, but it's pitch black. It's pitch black. So this is the situation, and that's like and blackouts are more common at night as well. So it's like completely pitch black most of the time at night. And what happens is, as you can see, like I was working on the computer, right, and the lights were on. So it was using the battery systems that we installed. Okay, so what did we install? So in the solar PV system, as I mentioned, we installed 5 150-watt peak PV panels, a UTL gamma plus inverter. So again, I found this after a lot of search, and from the reviews online, and what the features that they have, it's actually pretty impressive. 200 ampere hour prime-proof batteries, plenty of MCBs, circuit breakers, because we wanted to emphasize on protection. We don't want any short circuit, or as you can see, the roof is made of metal, so we don't want any accidents, because there are kids, a lot of kids involved in the school. Again, the monitoring device, as I mentioned, and as you can see here, like warning signs, because we've been told there is like some risk of theft here. So yeah, that's why we install this. Okay, so here's like an SLD, a single line diagram that I very quickly put together. So a question that comes up is like, I put the 5 panels in parallel. Why parallel? Because again, it was recommended in the spec sheet of the inverter itself. And every panel had a 15 amp fuse. Why? I mean, this is obviously, it's not practice, because it's a lot of resources and effort, frankly. However, this should be done because if there is, like, let's say, a short on one of the panels, the electricity will follow the path of least resistance, right? So it won't go through here, it'll go through here. So all the current will go through here. So to stop that, this breaks. So that's why we put like a fuse. We actually use an MCB like after each panel, and then this is the total. So to ensure that the total voltage, the total current, sorry, from all of them combined don't exceed. So I'll get a bit technical here. The VOC on the ISC, sorry, the short circuit current from each panel is roughly 9 amperes. So 9 times 5 is 45 amps. So we don't expect it to go more than 45 amps. However, if there's something wrong with it, or some short circuit or internal issue, in case it goes to over 63 amp, that's why we put this circuit breaker. And this is for lightning protection. In case there's like lightning, there's a lot of current, a lot of voltage. So this will break as well. And here is our inverter. And I guess what's interesting here is like we've used a 6 amp MCB at the end, which is to discourage the consumers from plugging in high power devices, like for example, the water pump itself, right? And this is 40 amps because that's the current output from the charge controller of the inverter. Great. So I've been talking about the inverter a fair bit. Why? Because the inverter is basically the brain of the system. It decides what energy to use and where it goes, basically, right? So the priority of the inverter, like according to the Bangladeshi setting, like the rural Bangladesh setting, I reckon the priority of the SUB, so which is the solar, then the utility, and then the battery. This priority is very important. So I've seen a lot of inverters, they don't support it. So this should be looked into. Like we should ensure before getting an inverter that this feature is available, like using solar for loads directly and not through the battery. So what some inverters do is they charge the battery through solar, and then the battery is discharged on the load. So the conversion is not direct through the load of the PV, through the generation of the PV, but it's discharging from the battery itself. And as I mentioned earlier, it leads to degradation of the battery. And there's also like, there are a lot of other things like battery charging, current voltage, high cut, boost capability. We take these values from the technical data sheet. However, there's been an issue, like this is an example of the data sheet that was provided. And unfortunately, there is no technical information here at all. There's just one here that says, for 10 hours, it has 100 ampere hour. So if we divide 100 by 10, it's like 10 amps, but that's pretty much it. So again, continuing what I said earlier, like if we get the proper technical information, the battery longevity, it will increase. Again, where is the depth of discharge? We know the depth of discharge of lead acid batteries shouldn't exceed 50%, for example. And in temperature, the performance of the batteries, it changes with temperature. So where are these? Like, we need these to basically design a system and understand which battery to use. Right? And there are other options like in the inverter itself, like recharging limits, monitoring port. Like there's a lot of inverters, especially high capacity, they have like just a port, plug in a Wi-Fi dongle, and that's it. You don't have to monitoring. And finally, another thing is this overall efficiency. So what do I mean by overall efficiency? Again, this is from their spec sheet as well. Look, this inverter is sold as an MPPT inverter, which is obviously great. It's very efficient, 94%. And this is what is mostly advertised. However, once we look at the spec sheet, the conversion from the solar, that efficiency is 94%, but the final typical efficiency is 80%, right? So if you just multiply these two, the efficiency is roughly like 75%. So that is not really acceptable, frankly. So yeah, that's something to have a look before buying, because like, again, most high capacity inverters, they work at 96% efficiency. So yeah, just something to look into as well. Okay, so that was the PV system itself. And it's so good to like so many children like utilizing the computer itself. They were watching YouTube videos here. So yeah, we installed the Raspberry Pi 4 gig, 19-inch Dell monitor, mouse, keyboard, and the specialty of the Raspberry Pi is that it uses around 5 watts, and the price starts from $35. Okay, just a bit more technical information as well. There's been like a new Raspberry Pi OS, so the operating system, the 64-bit, was very recently released. However, I tested it myself, and it's very smooth. It's very good. It's almost near perfect, but it's not like optimized for the for our use case per se. Like, for example, like the full version is not available with Office and games and other other software, and the text on Chrome and Office, the software that I think the users will use the most, that is the text there and the size of the buttons, it's not very good. It's out of scale. So I'm sticking to 32-bit, and it's the fully optimized version. But however, it sometimes gets choppy, especially with YouTube videos. However, like in this case, it should be fine. However, like if there are more updates in the 64-bit version, I can update it automatically from from my house in Dhaka, because I've enabled VNC, which is like TeamViewer for Linux. So we can update this like remotely as well. So that's great. And again, like as we can see in the photo, it's been received greatly, and people are watching YouTube videos and trying to play mini games and thinking of typing. And we also ensured to install the Bengali font and Avro, which is another easier way of typing Bengali as well. Okay, so as mentioned, like we just finished installation basically yesterday, so we are very new in terms of implementing our ideas, right? So what are we looking for? Like, if the PV system and computer actually help the students in school, we plan to do surveys, like eventually weekly, monthly, and that's the plan, to have a look at how they're utilizing the solar system, for example, if it's actually being used for for the school students or for other purposes as well. And that's one. And another important aspect is how they're utilizing the computer itself, and if they need more training, for example. However, from what I've seen, like the youth, like especially like teenagers, they have very good idea about computers and all that. Like they're very tech savvy. So hopefully, they can be teachers as well. Yeah, it's something to definitely look to. Okay, and the Raspberry Pi, there's been like a previous project with in 2018 with an older version, so it was much slower back then. So we do expect the Raspberry Pi to have a very positive impact. But how about the PV system itself? And is it going to, let's say, last for a while? That's another thing to look into. Finally, the PV monitoring system and analysis. again, I've talked about monitoring a fair bit because I know it's very important. And yeah, like once we get all the data, I will analyze the data, and then we can also see if the PV is performing as need to, and if the batteries is fine, and what's going on, if there are any other issues going on. So moving forward, we can perhaps also do like other designs in the inverter models and combinations. Yeah, so look, this just started as a very small idea from my head. Like I just started like a crowdfunding page, and the first target was $3,000, and we reached it. And so, that's what led to all these students, enjoying electricity now and a computer. And look, we are now raising more funds, so feel free to donate actually. So yeah, like the plan is like there are lots of different types of inverters. So just perhaps install, like, let's say Luminous is a popular one. So it would be nice to do like an inverter, like a system with Luminous inverter, or perhaps we can even do with the Victron system, the expensive one that I mentioned. So we can compare with the really elite, really like, high quality ones with the cheaper ones, and how the performance varies. So that would be pretty cool as well. So to end, I just wanted to show a very quick video. Yeah, but so yep, that was so. Oh, it's great to watch it like every time. So yeah, that was my presentation. Hope you liked it. Thank you very much. Okay.
Fahad, is there any moderator or anybody? We are self-moderate.
I think we are self-moderating, yeah.
Any questions or anything? What about the time limit? We are close to 11 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, we just have like a couple of minutes left. So if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, yeah, just let us know your thoughts.
Okay.
So as mentioned, I'm in the school right now. If you can see it in the background,
yeah,
it's Friday. So
very nice. Within a few days, you have done it. Wonderful job, huh? In a remote area like this, you have a internet, Wi-Fi, and everything is So solar is
so good.
So inverter is very important. If we get the quality inverter, panel is there, cable is there, the technical people, we can train them. So I think all school, we can go for a solar school, right? A solar irrigation, solar school, and they can their own energy, and also additional energy you can transfer to the grid line. So this would be another way how greening the grid line. Yeah, school, college. I'm discussing with you a few days back. We are trying to develop the integrating the school and also teacher, student, and also solar irrigation. They are pumping for their toilet facilities and other computer training center. So the school would be the hub because the roof is free. The roof, roof is free.
And
so it the roof.
And the beauty of schools is like the load is usually like used during the daytime, right? So they can use directly from the PV. It doesn't have to, go to the battery and then discharge at night, for example, when there is load at night.
You can keep some battery small so that for the instantaneous
for blackouts, obviously. Yeah.
10-15% or something of energy, it can be done. So this is, we can plan that way. We like to do it 1 or 2 pieces seriously, then we can demonstrate it to the national level.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very keen to get more data on, on this system, and, hopefully, the preliminary data looks very good.
Unless in the ground level,
quite good.
You are working the ground level. Now you have the practical knowledge, the specification of this equipment, but you see the smiling faces of the children is much more important. That's a rewarding experience, actually. You can you attended very high class university is good, but now you're working the very remote areas of Bangladesh. That's good. You can transfer in the knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. Yep. Yeah,